Well, first, a dire recovery effort tonight happening in the Potomac River after an American Airlines jet and a military helicopter crashed midair. Ceremonies to remember lives lost have already been taking place today.
Emergency responders don't expect survivors, which would put the death toll at 67. We have team coverage for you tonight, beginning with Fox's Kailey Schuyler. She's live from Ronald Reagan International Airport. Kailey, are you getting any information on what led to this tragedy?
Well, Caroline and Rashi, the big question today certainly has been, how could this have happened? And as investigators are trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, tonight we are learning that an FAA report obtained by the Associated Press is showing that air traffic control staffing last night was not normal and that one controller was working the jobs of two during the collision. Now, the crash happened just moments before the American Airlines jet was supposed to land here at Ronald Reagan around 9 o'clock last night. Cameras captured the moments, and audio from air traffic control shows the initial response.
Fire command. The accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone. So I haven't seen anything since they hit the river, but it was a CRJ and a helicopter that hit.
The best. Right now, just over 24 bodies have been recovered as hundreds of first responders have been on the scene. The American Airlines flight left from Wichita, Kansas with 64 people on board, including 4 crew members. Among those traveling, athletes, coaches, and parents of the U.S. and Russian figure skating community. They were returning from the U.S. Figure Skating National Development Camp. Now, the military Black Hawk helicopter involved was on an annual training mission with 3 soldiers on board. The pilot in charge had 1,000 flying hours, which is considered very experienced, and the co-pilot had 500 flying hours, which is considered a normal amount of experience. Officials say it's not unusual for military aircraft to be flying in this area.
If you live in D.C., you see a lot of helicopters going down into this area, so there's a very well-defined system in that regard. As far as altitude, until we get the additional information, we can't validate or basically corroborate any of that until we get more of the electronic data and the data that's on the plane.
Well, it was eerily quiet here at Ronald Reagan this morning, but now flights have resumed and investigators are still out in the frigid conditions searching for victims and debris. Federal investigators hope to have a preliminary report in 30 days. Caroline, Rashi.
All right, thank you for that report. Well, our sister station in Atlanta spoke with the father of the first officer and co-pilot on board the American Airlines jet. Sam Lilly was just 28 years old. Sam's father, Timothy Lilly, is also a pilot and believes the military helicopter made a critical error.
I was a helicopter pilot in the Army for 20 years, and so in the 90s, I used to fly in and out of the Pentagon regularly. And I can tell you, if you're flying on that route along the Potomac, if you're wearing night vision goggles, it's going to be very hard to see that airplane. If you're not wearing the goggles, it's going to be easier. You might have a chance. From what I can see from the video, those guys, they turned straight into the jet. You know, I think that the PSA jet was doing everything right. I think that the Army pilot made a grave error, which really hurts me because that is my brother's. And, you know, now my son is dead.
Sam reportedly leaves behind a fiance. His father says this is undoubtedly the worst day of his life. And the American Airlines plane crashed in D.C. has aviation experts across the country and right here in Houston trying to piece together what happened. Fox 26's Jade Fleury continues our team coverage live from Hobby Airport. Jade.
Yeah, aviation experts say that despite the plane crash in D.C., the United States still has the best record for safe flying in the world, but there are still a lot of unanswered questions on what led up to that deadly collision.
I think it's a tragic loss.
67 people lost their lives in an instant.
It's a very high density area.
Security footage captures the moment the CRJ-700 commercial jet and H-60 Black Hawk helicopter collided.
All accidents are basically a chain of events. So there's this long chain. A lot of things have to happen any break in the chain and you won't have an accident.
The crash happening in some of the most tightly monitored airspace in the country, with military and commercial flights packing the airspace near Washington, D.C.
These airliners are equipped with DCAS 2 change 7.1. So he would have gotten a TA, which is a traffic alert, and he would have gotten an RA, but the RA is canceled once he's below 1,000 feet and he's landing.
Houston attorney Richard Mithoff, who's handled multiple helicopter and aircraft crashes, explains what investigators will be looking for as they try to determine what caused the accident.
They'll be looking at the transponder, which gives out information in real time, data about the positioning and location of the aircraft and the helicopter. They'll be looking for the black box, of course, which gives more detailed information. They will be looking at a transcript from the air traffic controller.
President Trump suggesting the FAA's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies could be partially to blame.
And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers.
And I think for the president to blame this on the DEI policy is demeaning. Demeaning to people of color, to people of diversity, to all of the men and women who work day in and day out at very stressful jobs.
And those aviation experts say that the NTSB will be collecting all evidence from that plane crash, including parts of the plane and the black box, but they say it could be weeks or maybe even months before they determine the cause of the crash. Reporting from Hobby Airport, Jade Fleury, Fox 26 News.
All right, Jade, thank you. Well, as dive crews work to recover victims of the crash, the Harris County Sheriff's Office dive team explained the emotional toll that this job can take.
Some of these situations don't have a happy ending. You know, you're looking for somebody who's been murdered or a murder weapon. It's not a happy occasion, but without locating that body, the family doesn't have closure.
Captain Jasper, that you just heard from there, also told us that dive team members undergo 200 to 320 hours of intense initial training when they join. Over on Fox Local, you can watch coverage of the plane crash from our sister station over in Washington, D.C. Fox Local, remember, is free to download, now available not just your smart TV, but also your mobile device.